Just we should be live now, but I always like to hang out to make sure I actually see the YouTube window kick in and hear everything. Uh, just we should be live. Okay. Hello, everyone. We are live. We are checking out Sinden Light Gun support with the creator, Andy Sinden. And I am running an hour and a half late, so I'm scrambling around to get all my stuff right over, which is fine because it gives people time to join up. So first of all, Andy, thank you so much for jumping on and for your absolutely awesome response and patience with me testing this stuff. It's always a pleasure to work with a dev that actually likes to listen.
Yeah, no, well, thank you for having me. And also, we launched the support last week or whenever it was, so it's good to have some feedback, and we can improve that for other people and work out anything that's fallen through the cracks.
Awesome. So I have a pre-configured SD card that you sent. You sent the image over, but I also have just a standard configured MiSTer, the Bob config, if you will, with Wizzo's remote app running, with Tap2 running, Ronnie's wallpapers, all that stuff that I normally recommend. So I think it would be really awesome if we could walk people through how to install the software for it on an existing MiSTer unit. And in fact, I'm going to everybody's going to see a no signal here. It's don't worry, that's just me swapping the HDMI cable over. Uh, let's fire up the MiSTer and just kind of confirm where we're at the current state and go from there.
Sure.
Uh, there we go. Better. Okay. So standard MiSTer config. Let's just kind of roll through. I mean, everything is exactly as you would expect. I'll fire up the NES core real quick just to show. I'm also using RetroNAS, which should not affect the Sinden Light Gun even a little bit. Hey, Lewis, what's up, man? Glad to see you in the chat. Actually, you know what? I am going to fire up Duck Hunt just to show that we don't have anything configured on this whatsoever. Because this is the standard MiSTer build. There's nothing, this is just generic here. So nothing's pre-configured. We don't have anything on here. So perfect. So how would you suggest we start? Do you have a website that you could link me to have like a script file? How do you think we begin on this?
Yeah, so let's go to the GitHub with the MiSTer Light Gun driver. So let me paste that. Is it the best place just to paste it onto the Discord?
Correct, yeah. And don't worry, everybody who's watching, I will switch over to this view in 1 second. I get the screen.
Okay, so I've sent you that link.
Looks like Lewis and Steve are going live in it's like an hour and 15, but no one's gonna want to see that. Who wants to see a Romanian terrorist? And no, I'm kidding, Lewis. Is your beard still giant, dude? Okay. Oop, back here, Andy. Here we go. All right. So I have just the standard MiSTer Sinden driver page. I'm gonna drop this in the chat as well, just actually for anybody who wants to follow along. And all I would have to download is the install or install and the setup
Yeah, no, that's right. So just the install.
file.
And then, so how we changed it since you last did it now is if you can FTP onto your MiSTer.
So I am going to show the easiest possible way to do this. for most people. Anybody who's a Linux person is right now actually SSHing in via the command. No, your average person is gonna just pop your micro SD card in, go to the scripts directory, and then just drag the install Sinden Light Gun driver directly into the scripts.
Yeah,
So
that's good.
check this. All right, power this back up. And for anybody who anybody who's ever messed with MiSTer, you got to wait until the network connection comes up. And if you're using Wi-Fi, it could be up to 2 minutes sometimes. If you're using wired, it could still be up to a minute. I still don't quite understand why, but it always seems to work eventually.
Yeah, are we on wired or wireless?
Wireless. Have you tried
Right.
via wired?
I've only done it on wired, but I wouldn't expect wireless to cause any problems.
Me neither, but my streams are known for everything that can go wrong will go wrong. So let's wait for wireless and see what we could mess up. All right, we got the little wireless icon. I have my keyboard connected to it. Now I'm going to go into scripts, install Sinden Light Gun driver.
Yeah, so firstly, this one's now, I think it's about 50 meg because we added some of the remaining cores, including the Sega CD, an Atari One, the Master System. So I think since you last done the stream, we completed all the other cores that were available that had light gun support, added the border to them.
Awesome. Well, if anybody complains about this, I'm not going to listen because you can't get any more simple than pressing one button on one script file. So if somebody has a slow internet connection, be patient. Wow, this is awesome. You really did script everything in here. Perfect.
Yeah, so somebody on the Sinden Light Gun Discord, Matt_RetroGamer, he sorted all this out.
Thank you,
He was
Matt.
an expert in this. Very, very kind of him to do this. So it says press any key to continue. So I tested it this morning. This is probably a good time to switch the MiSTer off and switch it back on again. So in the instructions, it says to reboot at this point.
So just
What we
don't even
found when
press a
we ran this
button,
script.
just turn it off.
No. Yeah.
All right.
He's going to fix that for us later.
I'm going to leave this connected to my capture card for now, and then just move it over to my PC after we've verified a few other things, because there were a few things I wanted to show you that it might be better to use through the capture card, and I'll switch over to my camera view. God damn, we had 2 awesome wallpapers in a row. Ronnie's just killing it, by the way. If you don't have the Ronnie Snice wallpapers enabled, please just do that. It's 100% free. And if the worst comes to worst, just turn it off if you don't like it. But you just have to enable it and then hit F1 to enable wallpapers, and you are good. I am going. Hey, Asher, is there an echo on Andy's side, or is there an echo with me? And how bad is the audio echo on Andy's side? The way my streams work, I have to have my guest coming out the speakers. Odd, because filtering that out is a problem that was solved back in the 2000s. I'm not sure why I always have it. All right, Wi-Fi's coming up, so shall I just plug in the light gun right now?
Yeah, yeah, let's do that. If there is still an echo, I can switch to. I can go get some headphones with a microphone.
No, it would not be
and put
you.
that
It
on.
would definitely be me. This happens a lot in my streams. Okay. Thanks, Lewis. I will move to a different part. All right. So, at the moment now, the arrow keys on the light gun are not working because we have to start the driver. Correct?
Yeah,
Right. So I'm just going to go right into scripts and into the light gun, and we're going to start with the default. Correct?
yeah, yeah. It's a good start.
Okay, it says press any key to continue, but you actually don't need to. It just does its thing. Yeah, and for the echo, everybody, once we switch over to the TV view, it's going to be completely different. I'm going to be on the other side of the room. So if there is still an echo, it's going to get much better very quickly. Okay, so this is one of the places where it always hangs for me, is right here. And if
Okay.
I reboot the MiSTer and try again, it'll work. Have you seen this happen before?
Only on your last stream.
Yeah, I
But
am
let's see.
cursed,
Let's
but
see
it
what
actually
happens.
is
Yeah, let's
helpful for people. So let
of
me
course, of course. Yeah, let's try out.
full power cycle here, off, give it a couple of seconds, back on.
So for anyone that didn't follow the previous stream, obviously one of the things you had to do was go in, use the light gun on Windows, use the update to the latest firmware, and enable the joystick mode. So that was one thing prior to this stream that you needed to do.
Okay, now it's working.
Okay, well, we'll keep an eye on that. If that's something that, just happened once, or whether that's something that happens every, 50% of the time, that's going to be a problem. So that's good to go now. So I think if you push any
Nope,
button,
it just it said so it said hey or it said JPEG errors can be ignored and then premature end of JPEG file. So when you see this, um, then you could just hit any button on the light gun itself, right?
yeah.
All right, trigger doesn't work. Okay, back
Uh,
button does work. Okay, so that seems to be
um,
fine. Oh shoot, I just hit the wrong button. What happens if you launch it twice?
um, I think this will probably complain and exit, but let's see what happens.
That's funny. I hit the wrong button.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's okay. I mean, the first time you do it, it's I was
all
doing
right.
that with my video.
Now's probably a really good time to switch over to the camera view so we could actually see on a big screen how it works.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So again, while that's rebooting, I'll just add a little bit as well that when you first load a core on the MiSTer, the first joystick device that you use, it sees that as player one. So if you're planning to use the light gun, everything with these, scripts and how we've set everything up is that it expects you to be player one, and that's the light gun. So the best way to guarantee that is to use the light gun to load up the core, because then you guarantee that the first thing that you do in the core when you move up and down, you're using the light gun, so it becomes player one. Whereas if you load up with your joypad, you tend to load it up and then start loading a game and then think, damn it, I was supposed to load with the light gun. So that's one thing to remember.
Makes sense. One other thing I wanted to ask is, do you absolutely need to run the Windows app in order to put it in joystick mode, or is it possible to run some kind of Linux-based MiSTer script in order to accomplish that?
That would be possible. Yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah, could do that and add that in as a something to maybe the first time that you load it on the MiSTer, it could do it. So and then tell you that you need to unplug it and restart, and then it would work. So I'll add that one to my list.
Going to make sure I'm in game mode. User, okay. All right, so let me grab my keyboard and we'll go through this process again. And I gotta fix my focus as well. Should be about good. Yeah, better at least. Okay, so
Yeah,
same
good.
thing. I'm gonna be using the wireless keyboard to go into scripts. And also, would it be possible to have it delete the install Sinden Light Gun driver after it's done
Yeah,
installing?
that's something we picked up this morning as well when I was testing that. So
All right, so we're going to start. Ah, same thing, right? Frozen here.
yeah,
Let's just give this a moment
yeah.
then, just to see, because I'm actually very curious. We just let it sit for a second. Also, there was another question I had that the Linux system admin had made a suggestion, and I wanted to ask you directly because I wish I knew more about Linux. I just don't want to act like a know-it-all. I'd rather just ask you.
I think we might need to give that a
So,
kick.
can you
I think.
use a udev rule so that when MiSTer senses the Sinden Light Gun plugged in, it automatically starts the driver?
Yes. Yeah. So somebody experimented with that on the Discord, on the Sinden Light Gun Discord. So what we wanted to do is obviously launch the driver. I think it was 2 weeks ago. Get that initial feedback on performance, install. Got some feedback in particular the scripts needed a bit of work, so kind of worked on those the last couple of weeks. What we're looking at more now is how much of the stuff can maybe get into mainline of the MiSTer. So there's less for the script to do, even though now that script is run, it ran really well. And then secondly, what we can do to make it run better. So udev rules is definitely a possibility. I like the idea of not needing Windows, so we have that that joystick, the joystick thing, so it could load that up before.
Yeah, so for
So yeah,
anybody
this is
who's unfamiliar, Andy came up with a very, very good idea of only running the driver software when you need to, because unlike stuff like Remote and Tap2, it does use some CPU system resources, which when you're using the light gun in the core is totally fine. But you don't want that running 24/7 because what if you're not using the light gun? So only starting the service when you need it is a very smart thing to do. So that's kind of the only extra step that you might need. So in the future, having something like boot your MiSTer, fully boot your MiSTer, network support, everything's running, and then plug in the light gun to have it detect and auto start it, I think would be an awesome, awesome feature. But obviously, one step at a time. Just having it working on MiSTer alone is pretty cool.
so I think this error that we're seeing here, where it's not doing anything. So we haven't seen that where I haven't seen that on another system. I haven't seen it where we built it from scratch, and I do wonder if something else on your thing is scanning scanning the port or occupying the port, because when you accidentally ran the driver twice, it sort of did a similar thing here. So I wonder if there's a driver installed maybe for another hardware device that can be connected to it. Something like a marquee. So they tend to have like a serial connection, and maybe something is doing that because it seems to be getting caught by something.
Okay, I could try something else here. Why don't I try doing what I just suggested for future use, and that let's let it boot completely and totally up to the main menu with Wi-Fi enabled, and then plug the gun in and see what happens. Also, just for the record, this I have 1, 2, 3 working MiSTers here. Yeah, 3, and I tried it on all 3. So it's not, my gut as a hardware nerd would always be, oh, is there something wrong with the USB port on my MiSTer? And so that's, that was my first go-to. And there's different kinds, different types of hubs being used with it. So it's not like I have 3 cases from the exact same seller using the exact same model revision. There is kind of a variance there.
Yeah, I mean, so we tested this beforehand. We've got an SD card that I sent you with a build on. I'm pretty sure that will work straight away. So kind of what
It
we're
definitely will,
doing
but
here
I
is
don't want
almost
to cheat.
working out.
So, all right. So
No,
we
no, no.
have Wi-Fi is up and running. So everything is booted. We have the uh, light gun not plugged in. So let me plug it in now. And now let me go launch the core and see what happens. Maybe there's just stuff loading while my MiSTer loads. There's also a small possibility that the power supply I'm using over here isn't as powerful as the one I was using over my other setup. It is Yeah, 3000 milliamps, so 3 amps. So maybe that's it. Maybe let me grab a different power supply and see. That's very, very plausible. And that would also be a really easy fix if that turns out to be it. So cross our fingers, that's what it is. Um, just double check.
And what else do you have connected to the MiSTer?
Uh, Wi-Fi and a USB keyboard receiver. Let me try to find
And
my.
no gamepad.
No, not at the moment. Grab my other power cord. Do you know how much power your light gun draws?
Not very much. So only a couple of hundred for the non-recall, and anything up to 500 for the recall version.
All right, so I'm just gonna go right in with the new power supply. I'm plugging it into my surge protector that has a USB port in it, so it still might not work. I still might have to go dig out something better, but we'll start with this. Nope, here we go. So it could have just been power. That can't be a
Yeah, it
coincidence.
could have been. I mean, it because you haven't got anything connected like a hard disk or anything like that that zaps power. Would have kind of thought it was okay, but obviously hard to tell. It could be it.
Yeah, all right. So these are great problems to run into on these streams. So I'm just going to hit the button and back. Great. I'm gonna hit so this orientation, this is mapped to back, and this is mapped to select. So I'm gonna go in, which is kind of cool because you kind of use it like this. We'll go to console and then NES Sinden. Load, and since I have RetroNAS, it's gonna just go right to my RetroNAS because I already did that. I already had that pre-configured. Of course, it's gonna take longer to load games, but whatever. Okay.
So is it gonna work? Come on,
Not working.
not working.
So I'm going to grab that micro SD card that was pre-configured. I'm going to try to stop walking my man titties in front of the camera. Sorry, everybody. And let's just see, same exact hardware. Everything everything is the same except the micro SD card. That'll be able to help troubleshoot. Power off.
Yeah, I'm liking the look of the retro NAS. I'm gonna have to have a look at that.
Yeah, it just makes my life so much easier in order to have one spot to manage all my ROMs. No more copying back and forth, no more messing with stuff. Just much easier. All right, scripts, Light Gun start default. Started right up with the more powerful output. Yeah.
Yes, I've got. I mean, my early theory for what could be an issue with the other thing is if there's something that's trying to find a serial port for something. So it stops the driver running at the start, but also when you've got the driver started, that something is looking for it and it's sort of wiping out the serial. But let's get this
And
working
it is
first.
working.
So while we're testing, obviously crosshair on, but we always say turn the crosshair off because you're seeing what the console thought it was a frame or so ago, while you're waiting for it to come up on the TV. So it always is a fraction behind real time, and you end up controlling it just like a mouse.
So what I want to do as well is I want to define joystick buttons again. You have them pre-configured, but I want to change it, and we'll let the
Yeah.
chat decide if I'm being a pedantic asshole or if this is a better idea. So define joystick buttons, right? Crap. Hold on. I hit the button by accident. I'll try this again. Fine, right, skip, up, D, skip this, select start on the other side, and here is going to be what I choose. I'm going to use the 2 back buttons to open the menu, OK, menu back.
Okay.
So basically, one change only, and that's the 2 button to open the menu. So let me go back into the ES core and try that again. This
So
way, I wouldn't need the keyboard at all after launching the driver. Or I mean, yeah, after launching the driver for it. So now I'm going to hit the 2 back buttons. This is what I just mapped. And that brings up the menu. So now I can go in here. Now that we see the cursor moving and we know that that's working, I could turn the crosshairs off, and I could do it right from the gun without picking up my keyboard at all. That's obviously working.
Good to
And
see you hitting the
hey, I
button.
just decided
Good.
I want 2 ducks, not 1. So now I'm just going to use the light gun to go
Yeah.
back to the menu. So now that completely eliminates the need for another controller for a 1-player game. And I'm fairly close. Let me sit my normal distance back here.
So I don't know quite if you can pick this up at home, but I did say this on my MiSTer video as well. It looks great. Like the game looks, just how the MiSTer does it and upscales it on the TV, and the colors, the bright colors of it. It really does look awesome on a big TV, Duck Hunt.
So the accuracy is very good, but I'm still missing a couple of pretty easy shots. Is there any other kind of calibration I
Did
could
you
do?
check did you check if the crosshair lined up at the start?
Let's enable it right now. It's a hair
So
off. It's a
okay,
hair
so
up
if
and to the
you
left.
hold down the left, sure, if you hold down the left D-pad
Okay.
for about 3 to 5 seconds, hopefully the crosshair should go right to the center, and then if you very carefully shoot that as accurately as you can, you should be right lined up on it if that's gone to plan.
Okay.
How's that look?
That's
Okay.
better. So let me go back in. Turn the crosshairs off. That's about the easiest calibration I could ever gone through in any light gun calibration ever.
So there is some kind of light gun calibration in the MiSTer, but I don't think that you need it for the Sinden Light Gun because we want, the core. We want it to be lined up perfectly with the joystick. We don't
Yeah,
need
your
because
version's much better.
we're not using sensors and needing an offset. Basically, as long as the Sinden Light Gun knows exactly what it's pointing at, then it should be right on 0.
If it wasn't like 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning right now, I would message Wizzo to see if there's a way to turn off the tap to. I might be able to just turn it off from the menu, so we could see if the tap to service is causing the other issue. So that was me not paying attention, by the way. That wasn't the light gun calibration. So
Okay, cool. Somebody suggested something that could have been that issue.
no, I'm just guessing. So the first thing that I see here, vertical crop. Okay, So let's see if it still works using NES the correct way. And by the way, if anybody has their set to 1080p, you're always going to want this for all 256 pixel games. Period. End of story. Um, you could do the crop offset if you need to. See how it's moving the screen up and down. Ah, crap. Okay. So let me go back and try it this way. And I'm also going to see if I need to recalibrate, which I don't think I would, but let me just double check.
No, you shouldn't need to.
Yeah, it seems perfect. I'm gonna wait for the ducks to get up in the corners too, just so I could. Yeah. So this right here is perfect. This is exactly what I was hoping for. All right, so since so with this TV and this spot on my couch, would I ever need to recalibrate?
No,
Only if I like
no,
move
not unless
around my
you
room or
have got
something.
the yeah, I mean, just as a bit of background, the only reason you need to calibrate because, as you can see on the screen, the border lines up perfectly with the game, so there's never any misalignment. The only misalignment is if the camera in the light gun, it's based on how close that is to the perfect Z-axis. So that's what you've done when you did the calibration. You basically said, look, my light gun is, you know, 0.01 degrees slightly to the left and 0.01 degrees slightly up, and then it takes that into account, and then from then on, it knows exactly where it is. So as long as you didn't, you know, open your light gun, move the camera, or bash your light gun against the wall, you shouldn't really need to calibrate again.
So I am now at a complete angle here, 5 more feet away, or 4 feet away. My room's not that big, and it's still working. Maybe not flawlessly, but still very good. So yeah, but I think you just kind of you were very British about your calibration. You understated it very hardcore. I think that's really impressive. I mean, I just got up and
Yeah, I
walked
mean, at the start of the
far away.
project, sorry, at the start of the project, it was one of the things of, you know, there was infrared solutions, like the aim track, and they were great. Like, so would never knock that for what that contributed, but it was that frustration that it would drift, so people started to put crosshairs on, and then when it's a crosshair, it's a bit like playing on the Wii, you know, dragging the crosshair around. So it really was like, we want something that's absolutely perfectly lined up and really feels like a normal light gun. That was the goal with this. It didn't matter if you moved off to the side or someone stood next to you was, you know, taller than you, or, you know, you changed TVs. Even with this, if you changed and went to, you know, a TV in your living room or whatever, it should all just work straight away.
Okay, well, I am going to throw us for a loop, and I changed the video settings before I launched the game. What happens? These should definitely be the default video settings, though. All kidding aside, it is the perfect stretch for retro like this. Uh,
Mhm.
Although that does seem a bit blurry. Did I just screw up here?
It might just be this game. So while you're looking at that as well, I'll just say that we had a lot of feedback on the off-screen reload for these games, which is not really it's not really a Sinden Light Gun thing. It's just a feedback of how these work with the reloading in the emulator. So you tend to find that the games work in a certain way. So for instance, with this one, Lethal Enforcers, I think I found the bottom of the screen was the best place to reload. Um, Die Hard Trilogy, you know, that one's pretty ropey. I think the bottom left of the screen is the best you can do. So we're going to ask the devs at some point if they can assign that to a button as well. So that's an option. So you can just so when you're assigning the buttons to the core, that one of the actions would be reload, and then when you hit reload, it would do an off-screen shot that would clean this up a bit.
Oh, my
I
dumbass
haven't
had
played every.
composite blend is on. That's why it looked blurry. And that composite blend doesn't have the adaptive on this version. Maybe it's because this Mega Drive core versus the Genesis core doesn't have that option yet. So that was my bad, the blurriness. But it didn't actually work. So do I have to change the settings in the
Um,
input for Lethal
yes.
Enforcers to
So
work?
yeah, you loaded a Justify game. You see. So is that? Do you have to change that? maybe you don't. Let's try. Yeah. Okay. So on the Genesis, I found that you needed a control pad connected as well. That it expected there to be a light gun and a gamepad connected. So if you have one,
Ah, okay. So I will use the keyboard for that then.
so if you start with the light gun again, so move down with the light gun um,
Okay.
just to register that that's player one, and then if you yeah move the keyboard. I haven't done this with a keyboard, but hopefully it'll work.
Keyboard 2.
And
Okay.
then yeah, let's try Terminator 2 because that's got a nice big simple crosshair on, so that's easy. So I don't know whether that's a Genesis thing that you needed, the gamepad and the light gun connected because I haven't got one at the moment, or whether that's something to do with the emulator.
Okay.
It took a while to
So
work
would I
out.
just
So if
pull the
you
trigger here?
try the right hand buttons, because you assigned one of them to menu, I think. But yeah, try the front right button, and
All right. So start
yeah,
one
you go up.
player, use MiSTer.
Yeah, it's did uh, did that work? Let's see. I think this date is just coming up, isn't it? So I don't think that you hit
So
the
the
one at the top,
cursor
which was
is
you.
moving, but it's not. Or the gun is shooting and the cursor is moving, but it's not controlling what's on screen.
Yeah, I think you selected the wrong thing. I thought because it was player one Menacer was at the top. I thought you selected one of the ones slightly further down, but
Just reset and
that's.
see.
Have you got a gamepad if we need one? I mean, that's a stupid question. You must have a billion of them, but have you
A
got one
ton, but
handy?
I'd like to try with the keyboard because I just know so
Okay.
many people who bought. I don't know if you can see it on camera, but bought those silly keyboards just to do this exact thing to have them always plugged in. So start.
Sure.
So
Right. So
player one used Menacer. Was that correct?
yeah, yeah,
So I should just hit start again, correct?
yeah, yeah. So I think it doesn't like that. Whether it's not seeing the keyboard as a gamepad, I don't know.
Well, let's go back before so I can be lazy and sit on the couch. Let's go back and go to Lethal Enforcers again, and then I'll grab a controller for T2. Now, for anybody, I
Sure.
can't read the chat, so I'm apologizing for all the chats that I'm missing. But this is not a Sinden Light Gun problem. The T2 game gave me trouble with gun for IR. It's just a pain in the ass to use unless you have all this stuff plugged in. So this is not, this is not an issue related to this. All right,
Yeah,
so
I mean, the
one
good thing
player.
about this is getting the hang of what these issues are. So either everybody knows what they are, so when they're using it, it's well documented, or if it's a problem with the emulator, that we can sort that. Yeah, so that you're in the Mega Drive core. So I did on my video, I used the slightly older Genesis core because I found the light gun fired closer to the cursor. So I used that on my thing, and then when I added the border into this recently, because people were telling me that the Mega Drive core is slightly newer, um, I've added the border to that, but I still find that the Genesis one works better. So um, it'll take a bit of time to get a bit of input really from the devs or the community of why you might have the cursor in one place, but the shot is hitting somewhere else.
So here's the adaptive composite blend that I was looking for before. Vertical crop, uh, scale normal. Yeah, so this is what I would normally set all of this stuff to. So let's try this again on this one.
Yeah, that's better.
All right, pause. I'm going to now turn off crosshair. Have you tried two of your guns with this game to emulate the player 2 via the pink controller? Are you still there?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Uh,
So I haven't tried this in two player. I think did it support two player on the original one?
yes, but you needed a special controller that was always pink, and it connected to the first controller with what looked like a phone cord, and it
Uh-huh. Yeah,
supported it that
Daisy
way.
chained, wasn't it? Yeah.
And the pink controller would work with either the Genesis or Super Nintendo Justifier as well.
Yeah.
All right, so this is obviously working and working very well. So I'm going to grab a controller, and we're going to try T2 again. It might end up being a massive pain to get two-player Lethal Enforcers working, because you might have to figure out or rewrite some of the proprietary stuff. But I think there's probably enough fans of the stuff of the games out there that would be willing to help with this, because that's just kind of a really neat thing. Come on, I know I got one in here. Yeah, here we go. I have the Genesis Big 6 controller.
So you can play. There's also Lethal Enforcer on the SNES, Super NES, and there's also a Sega CD version of this, which looks a bit better. I mean, the graphics are pretty grainy on this version of Lethal Enforcers.
Okay, so, all right, so it's automatically detecting the other controller. It's not fully mapped, but whatever, it doesn't matter. Um,
So yeah, let's go to the Genesis core, and then yeah, move the light gun first, then move the joystick as well.
Move the light gun first,
Yeah,
and then hit the joystick. Okay, and it said map player 2. So everybody sees that come
yeah.
up. So now it definitely sees that there's a player 2 in there. Start one player, use Menacer.
Um,
And I had to start it with my player 2 controller.
okay, okay. No, that's not
No,
working right.
not moving the cursor around at all. Input, crosshair, ball. I'm not even seeing it, unfortunately. Any suggestions for this?
Um, so did you load the game with the light gun again? Is that how you loaded the game and then
I did, but let me
you
reboot
did
just to
that?
make sure. So my keyboard is off. Let me load the game with the light gun itself. Load the core, then load the game. Okay, only touching the light gun. I see the cursor, and the cursor is no longer moving. Maybe when I
Ah,
rebooted, I had to restart the service.
yes. Yeah. Yeah, the light gun should be still moving.
Start default. It says entered calibration
So on
mode.
the README, that's entered.
Says
Oh,
any
were you
JPEG
holding
errors can
down
be
left?
ignored, and then it says entered calibration mode.
Yeah, you're probably holding the left D-pad in your hand, possibly.
Nope.
No. Okay. Well, that's fine. We'll close that down. You might need to calibrate when you load up the core, but let's see.
Okay. So the cursor is now moving.
Yeah.
Uh,
And do you need to recalibrate, or is
uh,
it okay?
I mean, it actually seems fine
It might,
still.
yeah, it
I
might have
mean,
just
it's a hair off, so
cancelled.
I'm going to hold the left arrow key, wait for it to snap back, and then I'm going to sit back in my normal position and aim. And now it is, yeah, now it's perfect. So map player 2 just came up because I fired up the second controller. Start one player, use MiSTer.
Okay, I'm feeling it. I'm feeling it. This is it this time.
Yeah, my fault rebooting it and not starting the service again. Yeah, there we go. Game was just not nearly as fun with the controller.
It's a good one to blast the sound up as well. I know you can't do that on your stream, but putting the sound on super loud and booming out, and Arnie saying stuff in the background is cool. And I do think this is so much better than the Super NES version as well. This is definitely the better version. It'd be cool if they could do a MiSTer core for the arcade version of this. I don't know if that's within the realms of possibility, but that would be cool. And I don't know why they always have to put these humans in the way. It's literally in the way while you're trying to shoot.
Oh, I shot my guy in the back of the head. Sorry, dude. All right, so let me take a break, check the chat, and then I'm going to put the other SD card back in and see if disabling any of those other services can have that run. So we could kind of get to the bottom of this. But so far, I mean, just awesome. I mean, the only quote unquote workaround is for T2, which you would have to do with anything, including the original. So, all right, let me. Hey, Real OC Gamer, thank you so much for the super chat. Just a pesky reminder about the Q&A questions. Drivers for recoil and non-recoil versions. So does the recoil work in MiSTer yet?
Yep. So you just have to hold down up on the D-pad for about 5 seconds, and it toggles between off, single shot mode, and automatic.
So if I had held the up arrow in those cores, I could have had recoil automatically on those games?
Yep. And hopefully, have you yours is recoil, is it?
Not sure. It's whichever the replacement one that you sent.
Okay.
There's a couple other
If you
questions
hold it
though.
and
Mhm.
yep.
Go ahead, Andy. I'm sorry. There's a long delay here. My bad.
No, I was gonna say if you it's the weight of it. If it feels like more closer towards a real gun, then it's recoil. If it feels like what you'd expect the weight of a light gun to be, then it's probably the non-recoil one.
Okay. Also, what about Time Crisis with the pedal? Does the pedal that you have, because you sell a pedal along with this, right?
Yeah, so I haven't yet tested it, but I think that in Time Crisis, player two can act as the pedal, right? So if you're playing on a normal PlayStation and you connect the controller to the second port, then if you stand on that, it does the pedal action. So the pedal should work because you just need to assign it as player two, so that when you stand on it, it does that. That's on the to-do list to test that.
That is absolutely awesome. And have you tested any? And this is probably out of the scope of what you're doing. I don't mean that as an insult. I'm just as a nerd. But have you tested any kind of two-player with Time Crisis? Wouldn't that require two MiSTers? I honestly haven't tested that at all.
Um, so the only one that works is Time Crisis, which is one player, unfortunately. So it was the two-player ones were Time Crisis 2 onwards.
Gotcha. Hey, Artemio's here. What's up? Got Vanessa as well. How y'all doing? Okay, so let me go back and check the check this build, and I'll go in and I'll start with tap 2. The service running. What about tap 2? All right, disable the tap 2 service. Okay. Let's try this now. Ah, we're stuck even with the proper power. All right. Light gun stop, and I'll try the for light gun stop. Is this all you expect? Just press any key to
Yes,
continue?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Probably need something a bit more visible for that.
So let's also try turning off the remote script. Uninstall. Sorry, Wizzo. And I'm gonna try getting back into the tap 2 again just to make sure it's off. Because it says service running. We don't want it to be running. So let's see what we could do about that. Does anybody in here know how to permanently disable tap 2 in MiSTer? Basically uninstall it if necessary. Section of a So it says the tap 2 service is still running. Let me try rebooting and see what happens there. Positive Wizzo's sleeping, but I'm gonna message him anyway.
So we could also try closing it from the console as well. Maybe just killing the driver and see whether it doesn't restart itself.
Yeah, I'm just double checking as well. Maybe there's something. Maybe there's something on this GitHub. Hey, Gabriel's here. Hello.
So one of the great things about getting this kind of visibility is just sort of encouraging more support from the devs for light gun stuff. You know, maybe some of the cores for the older systems that have, you know, that did have a light gun, you know, and they kind of want to be a part of that. You know, when they're seeing videos where lots of people are doing testing and things like that, it really does help drive it. You know, we found that with the Raspberry Pi. So when the Sinden Light Gun was first coming out, there was only MAME and maybe sort of NES, and you tended to get you know, pretty ropey support. But once you've kind of got people that are doing everything and testing it, it's a good way to drive support. And you know, Saturn support is the big one, because Virtual Cop and House of the Dead, if we can get that as well, it really finishes off the range of stuff you can do on the MiSTer.
Try. Yeah, I bet you it's tap 2. Let me take a look at the MiSTer INI file and in the SD card itself, just to see if there's anything on here that I could use to disable it. Because while opening up a terminal and disabling it would work for this live stream, it's not going to be how most people would want to do that. So let me. Holy crap, Wizzo's awake. Oh.
Or he is now.
All right, so Wizzo's saying that all I have to do is disable or delete. Wow, Wizzo, you make your shit so easy. So just delete the files. That's it. If I had a bunch of settings already configured, I would probably want to back this up just in case, but I use the default tap settings, so I don't really need any of that. So I'm just going to delete these 3, as well as under config and tap 2. And then I'm going to go back and fire this up again. Oh, that's great. I did that. I did that off. I didn't have the desktop view. I still had the camera up. What an asshole. That's completely useless to everybody watching. Sorry, everybody. I got excited, jumped the gun. But I really did just delete the files that I said. That's it. You just go into the scripts directory. And let's try this out now. And then if this fixes it, after Wizzo has a chance to go to sleep, maybe we can figure out how to have something where maybe the Sinden temporarily disables tap 2 or something. But we'll see. We're testing right now. Okay, that is much farther than we've gotten. So let me tap the button on the gun. We'll go to console.
Yeah, I always find it is best to test with the NES one. That's always just so simple, duck hunt.
Oh, I
Oh, we
didn't
haven't
let
got
it
the
boot to I didn't let it boot to till Wi-Fi. I jumped the gun. So all right, now we have Wi-Fi, and now let's go back.
So I
Console.
think if you do the soft reboot like you did there, it should be okay. So it should still have the light gun driver working. But if you hold it down and do the hard reboot, then obviously you need to restart it again. Are you on the light gun now, or are you controlling it with the light gun?
Yes. And the
Great.
cursor is moving. So that's great news. Wizzo is awesome to work with. So I'm positive I will put you in touch with him before we stop talking today, and we'll be able to you'll be able to see what we could do to fix that. Let me turn off the crosshairs real quick and set the screen back to correct. Go. All right. I should sit back down where I originally calibrated this thing. All right, beautiful. Let me check the chat real quick and message Wizzo to let him know that's all that was. So that's very cool. Um, Wow, that was awesome. I can't believe he was still awake. I should have messaged him earlier. I thought he might have been sleeping before, but all right, that is very, very, very cool. Um,
Yeah, that is cool. I mean, to sort it out live on stream, that was pretty good. It's
yes, it's a very
pretty
wizard
hard to
thing to
work
do.
out at the same time. So
All
I
right.
reckon, assuming this keeps working and that Tap 2 doesn't start up again or there isn't another issue, we got to try Time Crisis, right?
Yes, I think that's basically it. So let me do the soft reset, not the hard reset. Um, and I am also going to do the button remap again. That's something that you could just easily update, right?
Oh
Um,
yeah, yeah.
yeah. So when you go back to define joystick buttons, yep. Ah, I did
I
it
mean, it does
again.
have it.
How do you
It
get
did
into the
have it
menu?
assigned. So the pump action was menu, and then
Oh,
the
okay. Well, I'll try that again. Hold on. Let me. Master system, is that done yet? Yeah, we have it right here.
yeah, that's done. It's a little bit. I mean, it's the Master System in terms of it didn't have loads of great games, and the crosshair seems a tiny bit off, a bit above where it's either slightly above or below where you're shooting.
Okay.
So I usually test with a game called Gangster Town, but if you know any other good ones, I think there's a Safari game or
Oh yeah, hang on,
something.
Safari on, definitely. So let me it was left on D-pad. Okay, let me. All right, and then. So you're right. Pulling up the pulling the slide back does bring up the menu. Thank you. That's awesome.
Yeah. So the problem with that is obviously that means if you're playing a game with and you want to assign the pump action, then you can't because it's the menu. So everyone might want to assign something different. Um, with the PlayStation, it does expect two buttons because the GunCon had two buttons on the side. So you do want to make sure that you've got two buttons. So I didn't assign it to the side buttons. But then usually if you're left-handed or right-handed and you know everyone else is the same, I mean, obviously if you're right-handed, that's more likely to be the case, then you could assign, the buttons to the other side or, assign it to the pump action or use your gamepad if you want to use
Yeah,
use
I
the
would
pump
use the
action.
2-button combo because you would never have to worry about that, right? Because there's no game that would use both of the side buttons at the same
Yes.
time,
Yeah,
correct?
yeah, yeah. Yeah, correct. Yeah, a two-button combo would be better. Let me add that to the list.
It is equally as wonky as the original SMS. um, and then you said hold up to enable recoil.
Yeah. For about 5 seconds. If it feels like it's heavy enough that it might have
I don't think it
a
is, which
solenoid.
is totally fine, by the way. I was just double checking.
Yeah, so anyone doesn't know, there was an issue with the other one, and that's one of the reasons why you were struggling on the stream. So sent a replacement, and it was from a contact I have in America, so he had to just send what he had. So we had a black non-recoil, I think it was, but
Yeah, no, this is totally
we'll
awesome.
do a recoil another time.
Okay.
So if you were playing Terminator, then obviously you toggle recoil so that it goes to the machine gun style setting, and if you're playing Time Crisis, yeah, do the single shot. So you don't need the select if you did the menu thing because there's a menu select and a menu back. Those are the ones I assigned. So there was load
Interesting, but it
menu.
let me map them on the other config, but now these buttons aren't accessing at all here. Interesting.
Is that because you already assigned it to something? You assigned that button already.
No. Interesting. Let me try that again. Or maybe let me cold reboot and restart the service. Maybe that's something happened there. So when the service isn't started, it should at the very least have the D-pad and the 4 buttons register as standard joystick buttons. Is that correct?
Um, it doesn't have, but that's how it should be. That's how I need to change it to do that. So then, you can boot the MiSTer and select the to start the driver, or do the UDEV rule. Would be a good way to do it. Obviously, connect the light gun, or if it boots and the light gun's connected, then it starts the driver. That's quite a good way to do it.
Yeah, that's what happened. I just had to load the driver first before defining the joystick buttons. Okay, well that makes sense. All right, so let's go to console and then PlayStation and Time Crisis, right?
Yeah. So a note here, obviously, if you play a Justifier game, so if you play something like Die Hard Trilogy, Area 51, then you need to switch in the where you have what's connected to player one. You need to change it from GunCon to Justifier.
All right, so let's try uh US redump set.
So as well, I haven't tested some of the more advanced stuff. I haven't tested like widescreen, patches and things like that. I'm sure all of those things could be made to work as well.
Yeah, that's definitely something the community should chip in on, because that's, that's where you get into stuff where you're splitting hairs. But I think if people in the community wanted to try, that would be pretty amazing. All right, so let me recalibrate for this. So basically, you would want to recalibrate each core from wherever it is that you're sitting, correct?
No, you should be okay. You
Oh, all
should be
right.
okay. The only difference is if they're, how they're interpreting the crosshair. I mean, so just to let you know on this, when you shoot the center here, when you do that, you find that as you get to the edges of the screen, it doesn't always. Can you see that it doesn't? It's slightly off. That's that happens on the real PlayStation when we've connected stuff to it as well. There's just a little bit of a misalignment at the side. Um, the core could find a way maybe to override that a bit, but obviously the Sinden Light Gun is providing that solid cross. Oh no, the thin cross, the thin plus symbol, and the others where the PlayStation is going to fire the shots. I mean, it's not actually going to make a real difference to performance, but it's when you're after like perfection, you can. It's just a bit annoying that it's just a fraction off at the sides there.
Okay.
But yeah, I saw that on the real PlayStation as well, and it depends on games as well. So like Point Blank is normally a bit better. Point Blank 2 I normally use for testing, and then the second version of Time Crisis, I think it's Project Titan. It actually lines up better in that game as well.
So instead of the pedal, you use the bottom of the gun, right?
Well, the front left, or I normally use the yeah.
I think the pedal would be a big deal in this. That would be pretty cool. I gotta buy one of those. All right, so let's mess with some of the other stuff just for the hell of it. Why not? So, uh,
Nice. Definitely don't save your settings because you've done the thing of changing about 10 settings at once. So if this goes
oh
completely
yeah,
wrong, we have no idea what's happened.
I think this stretched it though, right? I don't think this actually enabled.
No, I think you're right. I think it stretched it.
Anybody in the chat have you tried this yet?
I've certainly seen for the PS2, they actually have different ROMs, don't they? They have different ROMs for the widescreen ones that don't stretch it.
Yeah, let me go back in and disable that. Where's the? Yeah, it did just stretch everything, but that's totally cool with me. Let me So this game was always only one player for the PlayStation 1 unless you connected it with a link cable to a second PlayStation, correct?
No, I don't think this one could be two-player at all. I think it was
Oh, it was only Time
this
Crisis 2?
one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is really cool. Okay, I'm going to let this sit here for a second. I'm going to check the chat and see what else we got. And there was only one other thing I wanted to try with this, and that's perfect because I don't want to bump into Zez and Steve's stream over here. Anything else that you would like me to test before the end of this?
Is that to the chat or to me?
To both of you, I was actually talking to you, Andy, but in the chat as well.
Okay, okay.
Anything in the chat that
No,
you
I
would
mean,
like me to test?
yeah, I mean, we could do something on the Atari. Like that's you get different groups. I mean, you must have this with all the people that like your channels. You get different groups. You get some people like Atari that's a bit before them. Um, but it for me it's quite cool with loading up the Atari 7800 core, and it works really well. It's like I say, I'd like them all those older cores that have them, things like the Spectrum and stuff like that. It'd be really cool if the devs could finish off the light gun support for them. That would be cool.
Yeah, I'll do that, but let's do it through the RetroTink 4K. And let's just see what happens when we do it this way. Now, I'm not sure. So, in order for the light gun to do its calibration, please correct me if I'm wrong here, but I think you just need a white border, right?
Yes, and ideally you want it lined up with the game, so you want it round the outside of the game.
All right, I'm pretty sure that that's something Mike has implemented previously that he might be able to implement here as well. But let's just start by going from 1080p to 4K, and then I'll try direct video and all that other stuff because I can't imagine a scenario in which this wouldn't work like that. So, um,
So I think somebody said that direct video it wasn't showing the border, which was how we've implemented it in the cores. Obviously, that's not an unsolvable problem, but if your device connects via direct video, then when you load the Sinden core, it might not show the border.
All right, so we are in right now 4K outputting. So this is MiSTer going 1080p to 4K. I'm going to throw a scan line on here, but because we're in 1080p, it's not going to look right. But I'm going to do it just for the hell of it here. Yeah, it's barely going to do anything whatsoever. However, we'll be able to at least see how this affects the border and the doesn't at all. Excellent.
Yeah, that's cool.
All right, so that's easy. So let's just try direct video on stream now, just to show everybody what happens, and we'll go from there. And maybe it's something that Mike could add to the RetroTink firmware if that's the case. But if not, it would be cool to try to figure that out, because that would also mean if it works through direct video that it would work on a CRT as well.
It'd be if Mike can add a border, that'd be cool. I have to get in touch with him. He's a really cool guy. If he could add that in, that would be cool because, for instance, let's say that Saturn comes out, the day that Saturn Light Gun support comes out, and if I haven't got a version with the border, as long as you can add the border with the RetroTink, then you get that straight away. You don't need a Sinden version of the core. And same for where you've hooked the light gun directly up to PlayStation 2 and stuff like that. If you can, the previous version of the RetroTink, I think the 5X, I might have got the name wrong, but I think the RetroTink 5, yeah, there was a border option there. So I know that he's very busy with all the features that he's thrown out for the 4K, but hopefully when he gets a chance, I'll speak to him in a short while and see if he could kindly add the border in again.
Sure. I'm just going to go back to Duck Hunt for this. Basic, simple Duck Hunt. I got to wait for the Wi-Fi to connect. I don't want to make that mistake. Ah, there we go. Just connected. Yeah, no border here at all. Okay.
Yeah, I mean that's like I say, that's just a thing of how the dev who helped me implement the border, how he did that. Obviously, that's not something he was testing, so I assume it's a very solvable problem. And I don't think that the border's there on the 4K. Sure.
No, but that's fine. Throw this on real quick. Does look pretty amazing though. So I also I think that Mike might have to do that, because if you all, I'm not sure how easy you could see on stream, but look at see if I could just, all right, so look at the blue background right now with the scan lines on. I know the scan lines are going to look like crap on stream. However, when I turn the mask and the scan lines off, it changes the color. Like even if you look at the hits on the bottom, like how many ducks I've hit, when I turn that on, it's no longer white. So I think even if direct video did add the border, if you're using scan lines via the RetroTink, then it wouldn't work, because it would no longer be a white screen. It would be a gray or dark or something like that. Is that, if am I wrong to say that that has to be a white screen? Is that correct?
It doesn't have to be. There's one of the settings in the config file. You can change the RGB setting of what it's looking for. Obviously, the reason we look for white is because it's like the brightest thing that comes up, and then as well that means any other light, like a yellow light or stuff in the background, it can ignore, but you can change it. You can make a nice cyan border, like the color of your the sky on your background that pops up every now and again. You can use that color, or whatever color it came up on the RetroTink. So if you knew that you were doing a filter and it was coming up a certain color, you can change it to match that, and it will search that and exclude other stuff.
So almost as snappy as an actual CRT and light gun. Yeah. Um, it doesn't feel 100% the same, but I'm also splitting hairs here because we're also not looking at an electron gun firing a beam of light at the back of an etched piece of glass. There's never going to be the same, but this is really great. Hey, what's up,
Yeah,
Lex?
so
How's it
one thing
going?
to remember as well, we're running the driver trying to avoid some of the resources. So, for instance, there's the high performance version in there, which if you're running Duck Hunt, that will work fine. It just uses up more of the CPU, but the actual NES core is not using any of that, so it's fine. It doesn't affect the game. The reason we went for the default is to sort of try to find a nice balance between the games. So Time Crisis, that ran fine, so it wasn't using up enough resources. But if you use the high resource version of it, then in Time Crisis you might get a bit of stuttering and stuff. So it's all, as well as saying it's not quite as fast as a CRT there, it's also not quite as fast as a Sinden Light Gun can be. So that is something to remember. If you're using the 8-bit and 16-bit cores, you can use the higher performance driver.
So this might be a stupid question, but could you have the script reset so that maybe the base drivers run when MiSTer boots? So just all it does is basically scan, know that the Sinden's connected, and then when you load a core, then it automatically goes, like if it's on an NES, it would be max resources because the NES core doesn't use the CPU. But if you're on PlayStation, it's on low resources. And is there a way to have it automatic so people just don't even
Yeah,
have to change it? I guess
yeah,
that would
yeah.
have to be integrated into the core, though, right?
Yeah, probably. But it could also be that we could maybe look at the pattern of what's available on the CPU. So, work out that if it's idle, use more resource. If it's getting hammered by, something on the PlayStation because it's a cutscene, then use less resource. So maybe it could be integrated with the CPU usage a little bit more.
And just for the record,
But
everybody, I'm splitting hairs here. I'm not, All right. Just out of curiosity, though, I want to go in. Here is here is the MiSTer plugged into the SCART input, and I see an arrow up here, but there is no border. So at the moment, then there's no light gun support on CRTs at all, right?
yes, I guess so. Yeah.
The Yeah, because right, it says 9x scale, so we would be able to see the border.
But if you were using the 5X and it did add the border, then yeah, it should work. So the core, there's nothing special in the core. What have you managed to do there?
Let me check one very quick thing.
I see you've got multiple inputs connected through it. Cool.
I forgot how to do this, to be honest with you, but there's a way to set decimation so you knock 1080p back to 240p, or you even set the MiSTer to like 720 or 480p, and then Mark from My Life in Gaming did this all the time. I totally forgot how to do that, but that way you could essentially push this back to 240p and then rescale it back up to 4K and have scan lines that way, thereby not needing direct video. So let's just check this out then. See it. X. Yeah, wow, that's like a Sony BVM style. Okay. And yeah, okay. That's so what we basically have is close to what it would look like if direct video had borders. So let's see if this still works. The cursor does seem to be following, even though the scan lines are on. That is my TV. Yeah, that's depressing. But that is my TV. All right, so it looks like even if none of that stuff works, we're still completely able to use this if scan lines are covering the white border. That's really neat. That's interesting. I wasn't expecting that at all. That's really great news for anybody who likes scan line mask emulation. So
Yeah,
worst
I mean,
comes to worst.
it looks enough like a white border that does that. That even though it's you know, got the scan lines and it's not quite bright white, that's still good enough.
All right. Well, yeah. I mean, I think that's basically it, right? I don't really have anything else to test. I just think this thing is freaking awesome as is in its exact current form. But obviously, you know, we're nerds. There's always something we could tweak to make anything better. So that's certainly not throwing shade. That's as big of a compliment as I
No,
could possibly give. Is this thing's awesome? But we've
yeah.
already figured out a couple of ways to tweak it even slightly more if you felt like it. But so I mean, my personal opinion on your light gun has always been that it looked awesome, but I just don't want to build a Raspberry Pi light gun solution, or I don't want to use my PC because I never use my PC for gaming. So the fact that you could quite literally drop a script file into MiSTer, run the script file, aim the light gun at the screen, and start working, I think this is going to be the go-to for quite a lot of people. No setup, no um, no, I don't want to say this as an insult to JB because I love Gun for IR as well, but it just the simple fact is not as many people are going to tape sensors to the outline of their TV. So this is probably going to be the go-to. I'm 100% positive people like Retro Ralph with dedicated arcade setups and stuff like that. That's probably going to be their go-to for just because that's what super nerds would do. But for the person who just says, I want to play light guns on my flat panel TV. What do I do? Where do I go? I think this is going to be the go-to. So this is very, very exciting. Thank you for all the work that you've put into this.
Oh no, I mean that's great, and you know I fully agree as well. It's options. You know, it's different people. You know, Nintendo they've dropped the Wii sensor bar. They don't have it on the Switch, so they know that there's a certain demographic that don't like that. So that you know this is meant to be something that's really easy for you know people to use with their hardware and not need to have to change anything or put stuff up. So you know, thank you for your patience with the testing. We got there in the end, and you know everything that gets fed back is always you know we take that as ways to improve and update the README as well. You know, so I can update the site on things like the Tap 2. You know, can put that in there that's the thing. So in the meantime, until we get an actual fix for that, can still put that in so that anyone that does have that issue now we know that it can cause that. So that's cool. So thank you for that.
Yeah, no problem. And before we hang up after I shut off the live stream, but before you and I go, I will put you in touch with Wizzo directly. So he's awesome. I'm sure he'd be very excited to help with this. I'm also sure he'd probably love to mess with your light gun too. So he'll probably also pick one up at some point. So yeah, this is very cool. So I guess the only to-do list off the top of my head is have it auto-delete the install script after it's installed. Change the mapping so the 2 buttons combo opens the menu, so it's a lot harder to accidentally access the menu if you don't want to. The default video settings on, well, that's personal preference, but I personally would always have the default settings to fill the screen like that with 1080p 5x. Might be an issue with Genesis, but definitely not NES and Master System and Atari 7800. No chance that would mess with those in any way. Genesis is up to whoever else, but I also would prefer the Genesis core for stuff like the adaptive composite, and obviously you also saw a slightly different way that the gun reacted in the Mega Drive core, so I'm glad that both of those are still available. Did I miss anything? The chat, did I miss anything? Did we talk about anything else that we would want implemented or something like that?
Yeah, I'm sorry that we haven't had much time to go through the various stuff in the chat. It's my first live stream, so I should have like loaded it up, and while you were setting stuff up, I should have gone through the stream. So apologies if I've not answered any questions in the chat, but thank you everyone for joining in.
Yeah, man, you're a natural. I would absolutely love to do another stream following up, and maybe when the next feature's available, or when Saturn support comes out, or we'll figure it out. But we'll
Yeah,
definitely
a
do
bit of
another one of
pedal
these
and
things.
recoil, a pedal and recoil next time, and yeah, maybe if we can get the Saturn support, let's yeah, do another stream with some cool stuff.
Yeah, and if there's anybody out there listening to this that knows about the justifier code in Genesis games, and really just the justifier code, how would it even be possible for Andy to add support for 2 Sinden Light Guns under working the same way 2 justifiers would? I think a huge problem with that in the MiSTer code itself would be that each gun would show up as its own dedicated USB device, while technically speaking, the way the justifier works is they both shoot, they both trigger the white marks on screen. So I think when you plug that controller, the pink controller, into the blue guns, I think it's a mix of things. I don't think it's actually showing up as player 2 per se. So that would be a huge challenge, and I think that would also be a challenge for really any software emulation. So if anybody out there has figured out how to do that, please let us know. That'd be very cool to figure out.
Yeah, I've just realised I think there is Lethal Enforcers for the PlayStation, so that might support 2-player. Interestingly, so I'll have to give that a go, because it already does support 2-player light guns in the PlayStation core, so maybe that want to work.
Would it? So that's another thing. I've never actually owned the PlayStation Justifier. Would that be something that you have to? Do you buy 2 justifiers for the PlayStation, or is it like the other versions where there's a pink player 2 gun that plugs into the first PlayStation Justifier? That's something
I'm
I
pretty
would
sure
have to
it's
look into.
two. It's 2 separate ones. Yeah, two separate ones that go into the controller. I mean, certainly the same with the GunQuan. Yeah, pretty sure it works that way.
Ah, okay. All right, well, this is absolutely awesome. Thank you for your time. Andy, you hang on real quick. Everybody else, thank you so much for hanging out with this one.
Yeah.
This is a lot of fun, and I'm glad that we were